All right, appraisers, this is Brandon with Choice Valuation, and in this Spark Spotlight video, we're going to be covering the different settings options you have within the cost data side of Spark. So as you can see, we are on the cost data side. I've got a subject loaded in here. Some of it information's filled out. I've also got several properties, which I'm going to have Spark calculate the cost approach on each of these properties in order to help me using site extraction to get my opinion of site value. So what I'm going to show you are the settings here. So essentially, just like the grid side of Spark, everything on the left that's blue is something you can click on to customize the way that information is loaded. Now, the difference here is most of these settings in blue apply only to the comps. They do not apply to the subject. So the only one that applies to the subject is physical depreciation, where you can set the lifespan in order to help you get use the age life method to calculate your physical depreciation. Other than that, all of these items in blue only apply to the comps or the properties here for site extraction, because in almost all situations, you know the size of your subject's garage, carport, patio. You know if there is a patio or a garage, and same with the swimming pool, the attic and basement. Those all you know for your subject, except when you're doing, a drive-by or a desktop, you may not know, but you can approximate in those cases. But for the comps, you rarely know the actual sizes. So these settings apply just to these properties here for site extraction. So how does it work? First, let me show you here. So I did not type in this 100 square feet and quality of D for all these properties, and that's regarding the covered patio. So if I scroll across here, you can see that's my covered patio for property 1, 2, 3, and 4. It loaded in a covered patio for each one of those, and the reason is because I set Spark to do that. So I'm going to click covered patio here, and it says always include covered patio porch gazebo. Yes. What size do you want it to be? And what quality rating? Now, if I had set this to no, then here's what would happen. So essentially, none of the properties show a covered patio, but I can manually go and tell Spark. So if I just check the box right here for a covered patio for property 1, you can see it automatically put in 100 square feet quality D because that's what I set it to do. So now I'm going to change that back to yes, and it loaded in the covered patio for all of them. Now, if I say I want it to always be 250 square feet with a quality of C, now all those properties are updated with that information. And then if I do the same thing for uncovered patio, I should say, if I say, yeah, I know property 2 has an additional deck, I can click that and it loads in 100 square feet and quality D. Again, I can click on deck here and change that to be whatever I want it to be, or I can say yes and have it always load in for every property. But that's just up to you on how you want to do it. Now, the other thing I can do is I can do that for swimming pool or enclosed patio porch. So for swimming pool, I'm going to click that, and you can see always include pool. No, definitely not. I don't want to always include a pool. But if there is a pool, I want it to know that it's 450 square feet and quality D. Now, property 1 here did happen to have a pool, and it knows that because that's what the MLS says. And so it loaded that in. It said there's a pool, and so then it used my settings and put that in there. Now, if I didn't have any settings, if this was empty, and I had that set to none, then Spark would check the box and say, yes, there's a pool, and then it would highlight these fields in red to let me know I need to go and fill that out myself. So that's the way pool works. Let me go ahead and put that back to how I had it. Okay, now garage is a little bit different. So garage is different because we actually know from MLS or public records how many garages there are, how many bays of garages there are, and in most MLSs we also know whether it's attached, detached, or built in. So I can click garage, and you can see these settings. There's a few more here, and the reason is if I'm entering the property manually, I have a setting here that says make my garage that big. But if I'm importing the data from MLS or public records, then Spark will usually, not always, but usually know how many bays, garage or carport bays there are. And so I can just say how big I want every bay to be, and then Spark will multiply that by the number of garage bays there are. So in this case, I have it set to 200 square feet per bay. And then you can see since this property had a 2-car garage, it put in 400 square feet. And then it also used the quality setting that I wanted. And so right here, if I hover my mouse over this eye, I can see that this property indeed, it says for garage, yes, 2-car attached. That's what it knows from the grid. And so those are the settings it used. It put in attached. For 2-car, it took my 200 that I had entered right here, multiplied it by 2 to give me the 400, and then it used the quality rating that I wanted. Now, if there's a detached garage, I happen to know, even though MLS didn't know, the agent didn't put it in, I happen to know this property has a detached garage, then I can click detached, and it will use my manual settings, which are the default garage size, 400, and the default quality rating. So it put that in for me. And that's essentially how that works. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. And let's see, what else might you care about? It works the same way for carport. And for, let's see, attic, again, you can tell it if you want a default size attic and default quality and whether you always want it included or not. So if I said the attic's always 850 square feet and the quality is 3.0, then if I happen to know, okay, my property 3 had an attic, I can just click that checkbox. It put in 850 and 3.0, and that's it. Okay, what else might you care about? Okay, so quality rating. So I can set a default quality, or what I prefer to do is use the copy button here, or sometimes called the push button. And so essentially what that means is whatever I type in here, let's say it's quality 3.5, I can click this push button and it pushes that 3.5 across to every one of the properties to save me a little bit of time. Because usually, at least for me, when I'm appraising properties, except unless it's something really complex or rural maybe, then my qualities are always going to be relatively similar. So I can just push that across, and then if need be, I can go in and say, yeah, actually, you know what, this one was 4.0 or whatever it happened to be. You just type in the one that's a little bit different. And then the same thing works for, you can push for zip code. That way you don't have to manually go and type them all in. So if the zip code wasn't imported from the grid and you manually were typing these in, you could just push it across. In fact, let me show you here. I'm going to go ahead and delete out these properties. Give me one sec. I'm going to click the plus button and say change my site value method, and that's going to remove all the properties. Do you have vacant land sales? No. Do you want to use extraction? Yes. So now I'm going to go in and enter those manually. So let me skip that. So I'm just going to add more properties. And again, I got to skip that. We're in the middle of changing these tutorials, so that's why that keeps popping up here. So I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to add in a third one. All right, so now essentially what I can do is I can type in this information. Obviously, you'd want to probably have an address or a parcel number in here as your identifier. But then for zip code, they're all in the same zip code, so I can just push that across. I can enter in my GLAs if I want to. And let's just say we put in 1300. And then for baths, I want to push that across because they're all the same. Maybe this one has a half bath, so I'm going to change that. Stories, they're all one story, so I push that. Quality, they're all the same quality, so I push that. Now it used my default settings for the patios, so I did that. They're all 250 square feet. I happen to know that this one does not have a covered patio, but it does have a deck, so I did that. And I know this property has a swimming pool. And then for garage, they all have attached garages. And I know they're all 2-car garages, so I'm good there. And then all I got to do is enter in my depreciation. Now for my subject, I'm going to call the effective age 14. Calculates the depreciation. Again, I can use this copy button, push that across, and then modify these if I need to, and I'm all set. Then I can just hit get cost data, and Spark will go and pull everything in. So essentially that's what those are for. So these settings are basically to make your life easier when entering data for your comps or properties that are used for site extraction. It should help save a lot of time. I forgot to show you, you can use it for allocation as well. So if I know the allocation is 20, I can just push that across and use 20 for all my properties. And then when I go look at site value, oh, whoops, I forgot to enter sale prices for these. That's why that didn't show up. So let's say this sold for 250. This one sold for 280. Now, obviously, most of the time you're probably going to be importing this from your grid, so you don't have to worry about manually typing in sale prices. But if you do enter it manually, then you got to type that in as well. So now I can go click on site value and then see the information, pick what I want my site value to be, and then you're good to go. By the way, this 60,000 is here because I had pre-typed it in. Spark doesn't ever automatically fill this out for you. You always have to tell Spark what your opinion of site value is. We provide you with the calculations in Spark, but it's up to you to decide what your actual opinion of site value is. So, okay, That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I know this video got a little bit long. If you have questions, you can click this gear icon, click contact us and see our phone number or our email address. And that's it. Thanks for watching.